Welcome, Andre. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm I3.
Yeah, and it's been a busy week. It's already Thursday. It's insane, right?
Yeah, yeah. I still have a lot of leftover work to do. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just grinding away.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Friday Junior. I'm in my head, I don't know why. I'm like, oh, it's still Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'm like, no, it's almost Friday.
What is Friday? Right? It's like if you work for yourself,
Well,
does
yeah,
Friday actually exist? I don't know. I've stopped. I only keep tabs of the days for like my kids' daycare. That's about it.
that makes sense. That makes sense. But overall, like, how have your like actually, you know what? Let's take it back. First, for our listeners, I'm talking to Andre. He has been in the design space for over a decade now. I think I
Yeah.
found your LinkedIn. And I saw like and you know, you've been in the UI UX space and worked in a bunch of different companies and some in the US, some here, and now you are striking out on your own. And for how I came in contact with your content was the Friends video that went live, friend.com video, the
Andre
orange.
is your friend.com. Yeah,
Yeah. So that was the
yeah.
video that I was like, oh my God, this is so genius. And that's when I started following you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
yeah, and then I realized that you're not just a creative individual, but you have so much more to offer, which is why I was so excited to have you on. But is there anything I missed and anything you would like to add for our listeners to know about your background?
I think you pretty much nailed the head. I've been designing for over 12, 13 years now. Wide range of companies from I had my own blockchain startup back in
Hmm.
between 2018 to 2020. And then I worked for like big enterprise companies, like about 5,000 people. So it's been a wild design career ride so far. And yeah, you kind of mentioned it already that like, I guess my shift now is more focusing on kind of being an entrepreneur, like doing design on my own versus like working for someone else.
That's awesome. And I did not know you worked at a blockchain company. That's like it's enticing to me because I'll
Okay.
tell you why. Because I also worked at, two blockchain companies for like
Yeah.
2 years. And I have my reasons for why I left the industry. I'm curious to know why you left the industry after starting a company in that space.
Oh, it's actually pretty dramatic, I should say. And so basically, what happened was back in 2018, I reconnected with my old client in San Francisco. So I was doing a remittance app. Like he launched kind of like a Remitly competitor, and
Right.
we found each other on AngelList, and he loved my work. That he reconnected with me because he was in Toronto for what do you call it? An accelerator called Creative Destruction Lab. It's like a
Oh,
so
CDF.
CDL. Yeah, so if you're familiar, right? Like they're partnered with University of Toronto. So we did their first blockchain cohort, I think, at the time. So I joined him as his co-founder. I handled all the product stuff, and the idea is it's called Z Network, and the short pitch is it's a remittance in a box solution. So instead of it being like a Remitly competitor, we provide software and I guess leveraging blockchain along with that to Remitly competitors. So we're kind of like the ones selling the shovel. So like in the remittance space, there's different tiers. There you have your tier one, which is like the biggest one would be Western Union. So there's Western Union, RIA, like there's four of them. Then
Yeah.
you have your tier two, which is more like an aggregate, and then there's tier three. Tier three would be someone like that services someone like me being Filipino. If I go to like a Filipino store, I can actually send money through them. And the way they do it is like they get the bulk orders for the day. They go to the bank, they send money to their contact in the Philippines, and then they disperse it. So it's very manual, costly because if you send to the bank, it goes to four banks, so like high fees, and then the exchange rate. Like what our idea was is to create like this kind of full package software
Hmm.
leveraging blockchain to move the money across the world. So it was going well. Like we finished our cohort, we raised we were raising 500, we raised 650, so we were oversubscribed on our seed round.
Hmm.
So things were rolling, and it was all gone in overnight because it's public news, so I could share this. But basically, my co-founder was he was indicted for a previous company he had in the 90s in the US. And if you ever work in fintech, it's all based on trust. Like even if you're guilty or not guilty, if there's any stories about you, you're out, like you're blacklisted. So like we had 40 clients on the pipeline, like they're waiting for a solution. They signed a letter of intent and all of that. We were
Yeah.
doing pilots with two remittance companies in Toronto. And
Okay.
then yeah, it just all went away. Like it's crazy because like actually we were a week away from starting a pilot with one of the big four remittance companies as well because they were testing with Ripple, but they weren't happy with Ripple. So they were talking to us. And then the news dropped that my co-founder was being indicted in the States, and they all just like, oh, sorry, like for the sake of, like protection for our businesses, we can't associate with someone who has an active, I guess,
Yeah.
indictment or whatever. Long story short, he unfortunately is in jail right now. Like I guess he was found guilty. I left in late 2020, so he was still trying to run the company because of like there was still investment. He switched it to an API that then connects you to aggregators, so they don't, so the app no longer touches the money. So it's more just like you connect your business, like
Hmm.
let's say you have a remittance business, but you have to handle all the software yourself, and then all it is the API relationship with payout partners all over the world. I think like through the pivot, like we got to the point where like I got the product to kind of like an MVP or a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And then after that, my son was coming. So I said, I'm like, I need to get a job.
Yeah.
I can't do startup life anymore. And at the same time, like I just didn't see it working anymore because everyone that we would reach out to, they would be interested. Then they
Yeah.
would Google like his name or company name, and then the first thing would come up is that article about his indictment and just lose the relationship. So it was a good idea, but you know, unfortunate
Circumstances.
circumstances. Yeah, but it is what it is. You just move on.
That makes sense. But that's such a
Yeah.
crazy story.
Yeah, yeah. I never thought I would be like it's not like Theranos level, but or like FTX, but it was it was still pretty it was a wild ride because of going through that experience. Like I didn't leave him right away. Like I
Yeah.
didn't leave the company right away because like I was fully invested. I really believed in the idea, but
Hmm.
I think I stayed for about between 3 to 5 months. And then after that, it was like, okay, I think we're beating on a dead horse here. It's not like, I
Yeah.
have a kid on the way.
Yeah.
I can't fully risk my family
No, that
over
makes.
something like this. Yeah.
And we also don't want a Theranos story or like, or you don't want to be part of, right? Like, this is still
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
That's
So that,
awesome. But
yeah,
that's
so
a
that's the
crazy
story.
story. Yeah, that's a crazy story. For me, it was more so like I felt like the culture is very today, as of today, it's very frat boy, frat house kind of culture, like the bro culture. That's what I felt like, and so I wanted to come back to a work environment where it's not the wild, wild west, you
Mm,
know. And it's there's still a little bit of regulation, and there's a expected way to behave in a corporate environment.
yeah,
So
yeah.
one of the reasons I came back, and also makes sense because not a lot of like if you see the gender disparity in the Web3 space. It's huge and
Yeah.
feel the effects of it. As a woman, I felt it and I was like, okay, we'll beat it, we'll stay for, a year and then 2 years and it didn't change and I'm like, I like bringing about change, but this is a little bit much for me. So I took a step back and I was like, I'll come back to what I'm comfortable with. But that's a crazy story. And take like from there, fast forward to now, you have like so many positive things that are going for you. You recently like hit the milestone of having a MRR, and I
Yeah.
recently saw your post as well. Some almost all of them like um what do you call it, replenished, or like they
Uh,
didn't churn.
they renewed their subscription. Yeah.
My words are failing me today, but
No
renewed.
worries.
Yeah, which is another plus. How has that transformation been for you, and what are the struggles that you did face along the way?
Yeah, so I guess so last year, like I as I shared on my profile, like I guess because I do share a lot of like these stories. Basically, my contract with the UK company where I was the head of design for was ending, and we kind of took that time along with my wife's mat leave to move across the country to Vancouver to be just closer with family from Toronto. So yeah, and then the transition was a bit tough, I guess, because of adjusting with the kids here in Vancouver. Yeah, and then trying to work and hustle at the same time. Like, took me some time, and also there's a lot of like mental, I guess, exhaustion that I had to deal with, being like out of work and all of that. So yeah, it was tough. Like I have at the time I had like two like when my contract ended, I had 2 years of runway, and I basically burned 1 year of that just trying to figure out what I want to do. Because like I did, when I landed, I tried to do a faceless YouTube channel with my brother because he's an editor, so he does edit videos. I'm like, okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
Knowing nothing, just copying some other person who did like AI so and so topic, and then just doing like some random, I guess, what do you call that? B-roll videos or stock
Right.
videos. We did that for a couple months, and we're like, okay, this is not working out.
Mm.
It's not making any sense. And then I tried to do newsletter for AI. So that one, I had my buddies that are developers here in Vancouver. We kind
Mm.
of teamed up, and then we did that thing where the app basically works as like it writes your newsletter for you, like a morning brew or Milk Road type of format, because all they are is like they just talk about previous news of marketing or blockchain news, right?
Yeah.
So you plug in like articles that you found interesting, and then it'll create like a very conversational tone newsletter. So that
Yeah.
one, like, I managed to get about like 150 people on the wait list. A lot of people were interested.
Yeah.
Everyone like wants to like find a shortcut to make it easy to do
Yeah.
something, right? Like,
Yeah.
I do a little bit of thing and let AI do its thing. That's why like AI replies are very popular. But I digress. Anyhow, so yeah, like we try to do that, but I guess we couldn't get the product right. Like we were not the right team for it. Like our scraper was going all over the place. It was scraping ads and all stuff. We can't figure out how to fix that.
Uh,
And then also at the time, ChatGPT, like Open AI ChatGPT, or I don't know what you call the AI, the API portion of it, basically,
mhm.
it couldn't read like to a certain point. It starts to hallucinate as well because it
Right.
couldn't take as much characters back then.
Mm.
So it wasn't really working out for us. And then we kind of just, okay, like for me, I'm like, holidays coming up, I'm gonna take some time off. And then my other buddies were like they were off to doing other things. So
Other things. Yeah.
yeah, basically I spent the first half of the year just kind of like in limbo. It's just like,
Yeah.
like dealing with the kids, spending time with them, and then trying to figure out because all like in the like I've always been a product guy. I've never been like service type of person. Like I've always worked on a product, always nurtured it, grew it. That's been my background.
Yeah.
I've never worked at an agency. So, I was familiar with like Nick Buzz, Lee, Alizu, like even Design Joy, Brett, like
Mhm.
those folks who do successful design subscriptions already. And to me,
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that like for the longest time. And then just one day, I looked at my runway. I'm like, oh shoot, I only have a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then and that's when the mind shifts change, and basically it just clicked. I'm like, okay, I have to embrace my strengths. You're good at design, you're good at product, but as a designer who can't code, I can't just indie hack my way out of things. So I'm like, I
Yeah.
need to partner with people, and with that, I need credibility. I have my network here in Vancouver, but a lot of them, they have their own thing going now, and it's like I don't like it's hard to always just reel them back in and then with failed ideas. So I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is the right move. So I'm like, yeah, rely on your strength, and at the same time, like I really want to take on like building something for myself instead of doing another like job, like applying for jobs,
Yeah.
especially at this market, which is like I'll be competing with
Right.
people who got laid off at Facebook, Amazon, and it's like, okay, hard to compete with Fang when I don't have that on my resume. So I
Yeah.
figured, okay, yeah, I'm like just try to build something. I've seen I've seen Nick do it. Like I found Nick, he was at 7,000, like
Mm.
under 10,000 followers, and now he's like at 30, making like $1 million or whatever. So I'm not aiming for that. I'm just aiming for like a lifestyle thing for my design subscription, because in the end of the day, I'm still a product guy. So that's what I've been like searching for. But yeah, that's
That's
the transformation. I went from like, head of design, then on a big slump, and then working my way up on an uptick. I don't think I'm there yet. I'm still working,
yeah.
at least to get in a good position where, like my design service replaces my income, and then maybe even working on scaling, and then also maybe working on a product.
That makes sense. I have so like that's such a great story, but I also have so many questions that like as you were saying the story, like the first thing I want to ask is um when you did do the faceless YouTube channel and the newsletter tool that you were building, you said you tried the faceless YouTube channel for like 2 months. What made you decide that it's not working first?
Yeah.
Second, what was an unlikely skill that you picked up when you did those two side projects?
So for the faceless YouTube one, the inspiration really came from someone who made a tweet about, this is a faceless YouTube channel about religion, and then it was started like a couple months ago, and now it had like, I think like 200,000 subscribers
Mm.
in 2 months. And then so I tried to investigate it. I'm like, okay, like, what is there, a trick, is there a cheat? And
Yeah.
no one has any answers. I even went on Reddit, I asked questions, and they're like, oh, is really powerful, it draws in a lot of people, it's high demand in SEO or even YouTube and stuff like that. So it's like it was doing like a daily devotional. So I'm like, okay. And at the time, it's like Faces YouTube was like on the uptick. So okay. So I subscribed to like 11 Labs. I have ChatGPT and all that. So like what I would do is I would just take, like a topic, ask ChatGPT to write like a devotion out of it, and then I get 11 Labs or like this other one, I forgot the other service, to then do auto like an AI voice narration. And
Right.
then my brother would then take, stock footages, and
And
then
flip it
plug it
up.
on and on
Yeah.
the YouTube, make it a YouTube video. So I was like, okay, like, I was thinking we're gonna do this. Seems like everyone's saying that it's in high in demand,
Yeah.
like, so I try to, I guess, copy what the other, like, because I found like about five of them that are doing really well, and they
Mhm.
were like started within 6 months. So I'm copying like their strategy in terms of like the keywords, things they're using, all that
Yeah.
imagery, and then it just wasn't clicking. Like I'm like, okay, like something's not something's off. Like
Yeah.
I just couldn't figure it out, because like one of the other channels, he started another channel, and within a month it was at 50,000 subscribers, and then like it was getting, you know hundreds of thousands of views. And I'm like, there's got to be some form of, like, maybe they're buying like subscribers and views, and then using that momentum for the algorithm to then push it. But I didn't want to do all of that, like buying like subscribers, or even spend the time to figure it out, because it's kind of risky. Because like if YouTube finds out, they'll just shut you down. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to go through that route, like, dark or black hat tactics and all that. So
Yeah.
that's what I like. I kind of figured like there must be something fishy going on. That's what made me stop. I'm like, I think if we're gonna play it clean, we're not gonna succeed in this space, because everyone's
Yeah.
doing some underhanded tactic. What I learned on that though is prompting. So prompting the like chat GPT to create, because I had to like massage
Yeah.
the prompt, because like I still have to worry about the quality of the devotion, like what it's saying. And then
Mhm.
also like working with an AI voice. So like I can do like a full video from like idea, concept, to, getting the AI voice output. Yeah, because it's not as simple as like, you type in you're like, oh, write a devotion about this. Like for me, it's like write an out, like I had to break it up. So
Yeah.
like it's the process that I learned, like breaking it up to an outline, and then per outline, that's what I feed and get a script from ChatGPT, because
Yeah.
again, it's the character limit, right? Like it can't go further than 600 characters or something at the time. I don't know. It was something short.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the AI newsletter, uh, I think it's more about understanding the like the playground portion of it, like the API. So
Mm.
again, it's more about the prompt, but like I had to help my co-founders at the time to kind of, how do we get the right output? And then me being like, I'm not a dev, like I had to learn how to play with the playground portion of OpenAI to kind of get test. I keep hitting my mind. Like get test to test the output for the newsletter. And
Right.
then from there is like I was helping, I guess, like combining what I learned from the faceless user. It was like, okay, we need to break it up so that
Yeah.
the AI does not hallucinate. And then also like how do we get the right tone, like the even
Right.
the levers that they have on the settings. Like I understood like what some of them do, not all, but some. Enough to the point that like we get the output that we want, but unfortunately it's just like packaging it all up together was the problem.
Was the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are valuable skills though, because I feel like the more we go into this AI driven world, because it is AI driven, we need to know how to converse with AI in a way
Yeah.
that it gives us what we want. It is capable of doing that, but you know how we say if you ask the right questions, you get the right answers? That works for AI too. It's not just humans. Like you have to
Yeah.
improve the quality of your questions and your prompts in order to do that. So that's very useful to pick up as a skill. And you also said you got 150 signups for the AI, like the
Wait list.
newsletter.
Yeah.
How did you what brought in those 150? Were you talking to people? Did you have already pre-existing connections? What drove those sign up?
Well, I just did the same. I just did the same thing I did with like I had a project back in 2020
Mhm.
called Work from Home Pad, and that was a entry level job board. It went viral, and my tactic there was just tapping onto Facebook groups, and that's what I did. Late, I should say, late 2022,
Mhm.
I was very addicted to lifetime deal apps. So I
Wow.
joined a lot of these lifetime deal groups, Facebook groups. And
Yeah.
I was active because I was actively buying, I was actively like engaging with people. So I made friends with like the admins and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I had my own with the news AI newsletter, I reached
Mhm.
out to them just like, okay, I want to launch a beta version of this. I
Mhm.
need your help. And a lot of them were happy to accommodate because for them it would lead to like an affiliate if
Right.
if we do launch. So there was a business relationship, but like at the time it was like free. So like they helped me launch it on their on within their groups, but they're fully aware of like the beta scenarios. So, like a lot of people do this as a tactic to get like early users just to get feedback,
Yeah.
but a lot of them just like my app never made it to like a launch version of it. But there are people giving us feedback. It's just yeah, like the quality of the output. We just never got to the point that we're happy with, like in terms of our own quality. But some people like just launch this, like we're like they'll edit what comes out. I'm like, but that's not the goal, right? Like the goal
Yeah.
is to have it ready made so you have more time
Yeah.
to work on your business, and this is more just like to keep your audience or your email list fresh and entertained.
And that's a very understated method that you mentioned, the Facebook groups. I know that those are popping. Those are so like filled with engaged users, but nobody really talks about them and nobody thinks of them as an area to go find users. A lot of them talk about Reddit, and Reddit is amazing. Reddit is great, but the amount of engagement that I see in Facebook groups consistently, like even
Oh
small,
yeah.
are very engaged. Whereas Reddit, you have few huge Reddit like threads, and then very few smaller subreddits. But in Facebook group is another playground altogether.
Yeah, like in terms of conversation, like if you really want to get like good conversations going or engagement, a Facebook group is much more active, at least from my own experience. Like Reddit is more like a view and move on type of thing. Like it's like product hunt, like you go through. At
Yeah.
least for me, the way I use it. It's like I go through and then I check out, okay, this is interesting, this is interesting. So I just click, go through the sources, more like for discovery,
Yeah.
but it's not for conversation. At least and then also in the communities I'm in, like
Mm,
unless you post something controversial that
yeah.
that it's very polarizing,
Yeah.
then that's when you get the engagement. But it was like, oh, I made this project over the weekend. There are people who comment like, oh, that's awesome. How did you do that? This and that. But then you'll get more, let's say, traffic, but then maybe your comments are only five compared
Yeah.
to, so when I did my work from home pad, for example, I even have screenshots of it still. I saved it because it was crazy. So it basically, like, the pandemic happened,
Yeah.
things closed, right? Like in March. And then I posted, I'm like, okay, I wanna give back. I wanna do something leveraging my skill set. I wanna create like an entry level remote job board for people who lost their jobs basically because they work in retail or restaurant because they all closed down, right? So it's
Mm,
like there's no jobs. So I'm like, but then online is still going, and then there are entry level jobs where like you don't need to be a dev or have
yeah.
some form of degree to work
Yeah.
online. Like there's like, live chat, there's VA work, there's transcription. So I posted that, and my initial post of looking for
Hmm.
garnered like one of them garnered 500 like comments. Yeah, like 500 comments, 1,000 likes, and whatever other reactions they have on there. And
Yeah.
then a lot of them were like, send me the site when it's ready. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shoot. And then that's when I kind of like, okay, I'll just take it. Like, no one knows where to find these. And I was at like professional groups already. So
Yeah.
even the people who are like online professionals are still looking for work. So I'm like, I just took it upon myself. But basically, yeah, like
Mm,
it really nurtures a lot of conversation on Facebook groups.
yeah.
And the beauty about it is similar to subreddits. It's basically your target market. They're all coming together ready for you to engage with. The
Yeah.
only tricky part in both is really, like walking the thin line of promotion versus
Yeah.
like a post that they would allow. A lot of people astroturf, but people are they're getting used to it. Like at least the admins, like they kind of know when you're astroturfing, so they just like
Yeah. Yeah.
stick
Yeah.
it out there too.
You got to
So
be
that,
very, very delicate and very graceful about it as well. You can't
yeah.
be blatant. Before you could be, but now people can smell that shit from a mile away, and they're like, "Yeah, you're Kevin. This is
I don't think it's a good start to a relationship anyways if you were to astroturf,
yeah,
because you're treating your potential customers like they're idiots. And I don't know, I don't think that's like, basically you're tricking them that you're promoting something without promoting it. And
yeah,
then they're talking about it like, oh, I found this app, and then I'm like, it's your app though.
yeah,
Like, and then they found out in the end, even if they subscribe, they find out that you kind of tricked them into it. It
yeah,
doesn't feel good. Like for me as a consumer, I wouldn't want it being done to me. So I'm like, I try
yeah,
not to do, or not try to, but I just don't do astroturfing at
yeah.
least anymore after going through that experience.
You want them to feel like a hero, not like someone
You
tricked you.
tricked into, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
That's a very, very good point. Changing gears a little, I know during your answer you said you're a product guy and initially you're like, I don't want to do the service, side of things. Now that you are running an agency of your own, what difference do you see between the two working styles now that you've lived both of them? What do you like and what do you not like about the service part?
Right now, like, I only have a handful of clients, but they've been amazing. They've been really great, and I'm actually happy that they renewed.
Yeah.
I've done some freelance work in the past, and I'm not one to shy away from like letting a client go if it's just not working out. Especially now that I have kids, it's like, if it's too stressful. But they've been great. In terms of the difference, the funny thing is they're both different. Like one is an agency, like a web design agency, and one is a product. And like, I guess the product side is like I'm kind of more used to because designing over SaaS, understanding user behavior and all that stuff. That's kind of more my forte than like the web design part. But of course, as a designer, especially one who did a lot of startups, like I had to
Mhm.
be everything and anything all at once, right? I'm used to doing web design too. So there's that variety of things. I guess in terms of what the difference would be if I were to work on product, because I'm working on one product, I
Yeah.
guess I'll give a shout out like homie.gg, Mike Michael was one of the first clients that I like. His is a SaaS, so it's like I'm familiar with how things work or
Right.
how to progress a product.
Yeah.
The agency one with Jake of Gravity Web Studio. So for them, it's interesting because for me, I'm helping him craft the product, which
Yeah.
is like basically websites for different niches or different industries, but they're all local, which is very interesting because I've never really done something like that. I've always been all like in like, always account for like everybody in the world type of web
Mm-hmm.
design. But yeah, like create like I did more UX for him, like research for him than the SaaS guy because I was looking at like competitive analysis, SWOT, and then coming up with product strategy. If we were to like look at like we were to sell this and we're gonna try to penetrate an already existing market with existing players, like how can we differentiate ourselves? And
Mm-hmm.
oddly enough, like in the industry that he's picked, like it's very easy to stand out because a lot of them are like old school websites. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, there's a lot of opportunity. We can definitely, like carve out our own market. And
Yeah.
it's just as simple as like, like using my user experience expertise, like
Mm-hmm.
more like like adding flows instead of just like here's who we are, call us or book an
Right.
appointment. But like like especially like let's say medical ones, we have like a flow that we've designed to guide new patients to, from filling out their own forms all the way to appointment setting and then new returning patient experiences and all that stuff on top of the marketing portion of
Yeah.
the landing page. So it's been fun. In terms of the cons for me, it's hard to think right now because at least with like how we I work with them, like they've been a dream. Like they're not really
Mm.
they don't micromanage. Like they trust my expertise and they're very open to my suggestions. I guess it's more like the struggle in the beginning for me. I guess because I had to like they both signed up on the same day, which is it was very random. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I wasn't expecting it because like I was planning this whole thing with my personal brand in launching the service, but they were already inquiring about my design service. And
Yeah.
then it all happened at the same time because I did like a one viral post, which then introduced me to them. And then the next post was like them like asking about my design service because both of them were looking. And then yeah, like because both of them started at the same time, I had to find a way to balance both of them. Like the first week like drew a lot out of me because I was like I want to impress. I
Yeah.
was doing a lot and then I'm like okay, no, this I need to be able to space it out. My Because like
Yeah.
both of them were being delivered at the same days because they started the same day. And then
Right.
because I told them like I deliver like the task completion would be around between 48 to 72 hours, so
Mm.
2 to 3 days. But because they start the same day, they were landing in the same days. And then basically one of them had a bigger task, so I took 3 days on that, and then the other one had 2 days, and now I'm able to alternate. And that's why I'm like I'm not sure if you've seen, but I'm thinking about bringing on another client because I have more bandwidth now that I'm able to normalize the delivery
Right. Yeah. You
pattern
were able
for
to
them.
find your groove and like figure out how you're
Yeah, I didn't want to take on everybody that are interested because then it dilutes the quality.
yeah,
And like when it comes to this to design, like quality is everything. Like
I
that's
agree.
kind of what you live and die on. Like
Yeah.
I didn't want to take on more than two at a time just so that like two because I can learn to create kind of like the flow because if it's
Yeah.
just one, it's always just that one client, right?
Right.
But if it's two, then there's that challenge of like, okay, how do I balance multiple clients and all
Yeah.
of that? Now that I've figured that out, like I'm now on the hunt for my third client. Only one more though. I have multiple leads, but I'm like, okay, whoever goes first will get the spot after.
Yeah. But that's such a, first of all, that's such a great position to be in where you're like, I have multiple leads and then like, I have it's nice to know that you have options and you get to pick and choose who you want to work with. And also the context switching, I think so, and I want you to correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong. It's fun because if you're working with one client, yes, you get the focus and it's great,
yeah,
but having that variety in work must make things exciting for you, no?
yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. Like It's not for everybody. I know there are people through the years I've met other people who just want to work on one thing, hold
Mm,
that. But for me, I thrive on wearing multiple hats and like what you said. And
yeah,
if I were to work on one product, the context switching for me would be changing from design to helping with marketing, do like helping with the business side of things with like sales or doing pitch decks,
yeah,
like that like for me, I thrive in that environment because you're right, like it does get stale. Like I'm not when I worked for the time that I worked for a company that had like 5,000 employees,
yeah,
I was like designer too. I had my portfolio, and then that's it. That's all I do. And then
right,
I'm like we had actual researchers on the team, so I
yeah,
was just they hired for like a product designer, but at the end of the day, I was a UI guy. Like I was just a UI person, and I'm like,
yeah,
this is boring, you know. I told him that, and then like at the time, my boss at the time was very supportive because he was then helping me transition to like product management because I'm
mm,
like, I want to do more than just like UI. Like I'm gonna go insane if this is the only thing I do. I came like all my previous all the previous companies I worked for was like startups, and then like bam enterprises, like you're just a cog in a big machine. It was just like
yeah, yeah,
but some of my teammates were happy. Like they've been there for 5 years, longer, and then they're happy with that, and I respect that. But
yeah.
at the end of the day, you have to be true to what works for you.
Yourself. Yeah, that makes sense. That's me, right? When I'm wearing one
Hmm.
hat, like, and if I'm all forced to just wear that one hat, I'm gonna peek at the other hat. I'm gonna like I want to see what's going on just because
Yeah,
I'm curious and I want to understand how the entire process or the flow works, which is
yeah,
very exciting. So I totally agree with you there. Another thing that I was thinking about is you were talking about design and UI and how the and UX, which is very important because it makes or breaks someone's impression. We are, we find so many indie hackers in our community. And with the advent of AI now, I feel like everyone feels empowered enough to do everything. But I think we're at a certain level, like to a certain extent, you can do everything. But in order to excel and go above and beyond, you don't need to know how to use those tools. So as a designer or who comes from that background, what do you think people like me who have no design background do to leverage AI to its best of its capabilities? And when do you think the inflection point comes in where I'm like, okay, I've used enough AI and this is the best I can get out of it, and I need to bring in um an expert like yourself?
that's a good question. In terms of leveraging AI, it's tough because if you're creating another boilerplate or there's another landing page, it's pretty easy to leverage AI to just create like a standard like landing page for you.
Mm-hmm.
The downside for that, well, the upside is speed because you can just whip up. You like I
Yeah,
don't know. I think there's like Galileo or like another AI app that does like web design for you.
yeah,
Give it a prompt, gives you a website. The
yeah,
downside is you don't know how well that would convert. Like it's just taking on past examples, but if you're creating something for a specific niche or there's something different, and not be able to account for it because if it's something new, AI
yeah,
is only leveraging past data, right? It doesn't
right. Yeah.
go on the future side of things. So that's kind of the downside. Leveraging AI in terms of building product or design, it's
Mm-hmm.
good to get maybe proof of concept to MVP, just to because you want to test the idea, you want to test
Yeah.
the stickiness of the idea, or if there is a hungry market for the idea you're building. And fun. Okay, actually, that's a good question. It reminded me of a couple of people that I actually spoke to on X on Twitter.
Yeah.
Reflection point for me, in my opinion, and
Yeah.
these guys have this problem. Like
Yeah.
one guy has a an AI workout app. Like he just used like out of the box like UI. It's very rudimentary,
Yeah.
very hacky. But I guess he nailed it on the proposition, the product proposition because he went viral like on in Brazil. Like he told me, he's like, because I was asking him like, okay, like how many users do you have?
Yeah.
It's like 10,000. It's like 10,000. But he was thinking of shutting it down. I'm like, why are you thinking of shutting down your app? Like you have
Yeah.
10,000 users. It's like, oh, all of them are like free. And then I'm like, okay, wait, hold on. How many active users do you have? And he said 300 and they're dwindling and none of them are paying. So he's paying for the AI himself. I'm like, how did you end up getting 10,000? Like, oh, I went viral in Brazil, like top of the app store and all that. I'm like, wow, like you nailed your app store optimization,
Yeah.
your product description or your product proposition, like nailed a need for these people, and then you can't monetize, and and then you're like out of the 10,000, only 3% are active. And and then that's I like for me, in my opinion, that's where design really comes in, because one, the perception of his app is very like, I don't want to say cheap, but that's kind of I don't know the any other word right now, because like the design was poorly done, so
Mm-hmm.
the perceived value is pretty low, and then like it's hard for people to convert, and also retention. So you know he got the conversion right, but the
Yeah.
retention, he it's not there, and the app does what it says it does. So
Yeah.
why are they not staying and using it? And when I use it, I'm like, I had a hard time using it. It was very confusing, and it was very hacky. And
Mm.
I'm like, if we designed it better, like go further, like people would probably want to stay
Yeah.
and use it more if you made it easier to use as well. So if you're getting people who visit, that
Mhm.
means your idea has merit, and that's a marketing thing. That's a marketing issue, right? So if
Yeah.
you nailed that, and where design, I would say like where design would come in is if two things. One, people are signing up means your conversion is good, but
Yeah.
they're not staying. So that means it's a product issue, like a product experience issue. That's clearly a
Right.
design for at least for me,
Yeah.
my experience, like what I've observed through the years. The other one is if people are landing on your site, but they're not completing the conversion. So like they go through the sign up, they don't, but they never complete it.
Yeah.
That's another design. That's an onboarding issue. So those
Mm.
two things I think would be big key signs that are like you would probably want a professional to look, like a professional designer to look at your app or
Yeah.
product.
Yeah.
Like if you nailed your marketing, people are going, they click sign up but don't finish. If they do complete the sign up but they don't stay. So
Right. Yeah.
those are the two things that I would look at if I would want to bring in a designer. And
That
then
makes
the third thing would be if it take the actually the most important metric, at least for me, if you're starting out, is the time to accomplish first task. So that's when you land on the landing page, you sign up, and
Mhm.
then they figure out to do your main core task as quick as possible after onboarding. So if it takes
Yeah.
a long time, like
Yeah.
let's say like I download Instagram and
Mhm.
then I don't post a photo up until like maybe a day, there's an issue there, right? Like I need to walk you through to post a photo because we want you to participate. Or
Yeah.
like for the workout app, for example, if they don't generate, if they don't ask the AI to generate a workout plan for them up
Mhm.
until like maybe a few hours after sign up, that's an issue. Like
Yeah.
you want it to be like within minutes,
Yeah.
right? Because you want it to click. Like, okay, I came here to do this and I know how to do it because I
Yeah.
flow was intuitive. So that's also the other point that I would probably bring in a professional designer to look into how to optimize that experience, because they're only sticky if they can get to that pretty quickly.
Right.
At least like God, there was a study. It's like, if they complete it within 3 minutes, they're more likely, like the percentage is really high of them staying and converting to a paid user.
That makes sense. It should be as frictionless as possible,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me of, when you're binge watching a show on Netflix, you don't even have to touch the screen. And then in 5 seconds, like there's a countdown happening and it goes to the next episode.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's genius because usually you have to go click on each episode, but Netflix made it so
Mm-mm.
easy for you to consume their content,
Yeah.
so frictionless. That's what it reminded me of. And when you were talking about the process, what I realized is when you're doing design, it's not like you get on Figma and you start designing. There's a lot of pre-work
Yeah.
that's involved, right? Like which involves psychology, studying the person's behavior, and also identifying what the product is intended to do, then designing according to that. So there's a lot of pre-work involved. Where can people go to maybe read about this, or are there certain frameworks that you follow that would help with that pre-work?
Yeah, so for me, I have a design process, which is a design thinking process. And it's a five-step scenario. But the thing is, like, what I want to bring up though is, sometimes, like, actually not sometimes, but a lot of the times, startups don't have that luxury because they
Mm,
want to move fast, right?
right.
Like,
Mm,
if we were to do like a proper UX research and design flow, like some of them could take like 3 months because you want to do your competitive analysis, you want to do user interviews, stakeholder interviews, and then yeah, there's I'm blanking on the term right now, but there's even that part where like you visit you hang out with your
Customary.
your customer, and then
Yeah.
you see their behavior for the day. Field study is what they call it, field study.
Yeah.
Like you look at their behavior, like doing all like that, those it gets pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But for a startup, it's tough because you want to move fast, you want to get to the MVP and launch it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes, like not something all the time, I
Yeah.
see people like just don't um just bypass any form of thinking about how the user flow would work. To me, I think that's also another, I guess, if we're talking like another place where a designer could provide value. Because like
Mhm.
for me, I have like over 10 years of experience. So for me, I know at least like the most like a lot of the basic stuff, and I can kind of anticipate as well how users would behave because of my past experiences. So like from the sign up, and even like if you see on my roast, I show like in my explanations some of
Yeah.
like the enhancements on the UX itself, and
Mm,
I'm pretty confident that that would be the case because
you've seen it.
my past experiences. So that's really I guess like the kind of the
So the
crux of that issue. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That is super interesting. I feel like I can go on and on about this, like, and ask you so many questions, but I also want to be mindful of time. I know
No worries.
we're coming to the close of the top of the hour, but now that you have accomplished all of these great things, what's next for you? I know you were talking about working on a season two video, and you were going to tell what's to come. But what are some of the exciting things that you're looking forward to and can't wait to share with the world?
Well, I did provide teaser like for people who are my friends on X, like they've seen teasers of me kind of sharing that,
Mhm.
I grew to 800 within 2 months because I use an app.
Yeah.
And that's like an internal app that I use for myself. It's just an engagement assistant, not
Mhm.
an AI reply. Just
Yeah.
put the premise on there. I'm against AI replies because the whole idea is building connections, and
Yeah.
AI replies is like basically talking to a wall. So it's not
Right.
basically I partnered with a couple people.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably share later on. Some
Yeah.
familiar maybe in terms of creating it more available to the public because
Yeah.
every like the whole idea is like if you go on X or Twitter, everyone's talking about the quickest way to grow is engagement,
Yeah.
talking to people,
Yep.
replying, commenting. But from someone who's just fresh or even just want to partake in the engagement strategy,
Mm,
like it is a strategy, but not everyone knows the strategy. A lot of them, like there are people within my network on X that I
mhm,
see them engage every day. They
mm,
engage, sometimes they engage more than me, but they're not growing and they don't have an engaged audience because they don't have the right, I guess, strategy for engagement. Like you can't just go blazing and just spray and pray.
yeah.
Is a method to the madness of engagement, and that is what this app kind of helps me keep in check and
Mm,
be disciplined on, rather than just like commenting for the sake of commenting. It guides me on, okay, comment to people that either might reply back or follow you. So
yeah.
there's an ROI to the engagement that I'm doing. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, I don't want to share too much. I want to like I just like we'll probably share it more. Week comes very soon though because we're
Nice.
moving pretty quick. So but yeah, like I'm pretty excited. I think the difference with this app that thinking of launching is it's more driven to action based rather than just
Yeah.
metrics and things that like it like seeing stuff
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah.
Like I've seen a lot of the X are like that, but
Yeah.
this one is more driven to like lead to an action from for the user.
Right.
So like it's more like it guides you like this is the things that you should do versus like
Mhm.
here's all the information, you figure out what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
very user action driven, and me being a designer, that's kind of like my bread and butter is like guiding users to do apps either within the app or outside of it in an intuitive way. So
That
yeah,
makes
I'm excited.
That's very exciting. And also it reminds me, I like the distinction you made between giving people or dumping like analytics or like bunch of data points on them and saying, "Oh, you figured it out. We are done with our bit,"
Yeah.
versus saying, "Hey, the data will come once you do your action. It will come. It has to come. There's no two ways about it. How can you take the most profitable first step or the most intentional step that gets you ROI?" That's very exciting for me that it helps people make that shift or move the dial a little bit and help them, right? That's very thoughtful, and I'm very excited about that too. I wonder who's on the team, but we'll learn more about that in the coming weeks, as you said. That's it. I think that's all the questions I have. Oh, I had one last one, and I can't let you go without that. What's
Okay.
the one blunder and one breakthrough you've had this week? Because,
This week,
yeah, we're on blunders and breakthroughs. So,
that's true. That's true. Man, blunder. Which one do I pick? There's so too many. Say my one blunder would be man, which one? Guess my one blunder this week was getting that my wife started her job. So like have our morning routines, but
yeah,
my wife and I alternate on who wakes up for the kids.
yeah,
Funny enough, this morning she wakes up before like early 7 a.m. and then she
yeah.
starts work at 7:30. And then the kids get ready. We don't leave until 8:30. So
Mm,
prior to that is like when it's her turn, she does all everything, and then if I'm the one driving the kids to the daycare, I don't have to be up until 8:20, I guess, and
right.
just brush my teeth and drive them to daycare. So
Yeah.
today it was like it was a mess. I woke up a little bit and I look at the clock. It's like, oh, it's only 7:50. I still have up to 8:15. I go back to sleep. My wife's like, Andre, where are you? I'm writing an email, and I'm like, I was working right now. I have to get up. I jumped out so fast, help one of my kids get ready for daycare, brush their teeth. I'm like, oh, forgot she's working now. Like I can't just
Oh my God.
sleep in and go back out.
Yeah.
So that's my one blunder. So I still got to get used to the fact that my wife works now. We're
Routine.
transitioning to this new routine, yeah.
Yeah.
And my one breakthrough to me, it's I guess my clients, all my clients renewing their design subscription. So pretty
Yeah.
happy about that. It validates like all the effort that I've done, like providing the work for them.
Yeah.
Because one of the things is we focus like there are times where as a designer you kind of just like you coast. But then for me, I wanted to like put on like the the biggest differentiator for someone like me, like my price is a bit premium because like, some people they do ask like, why can't I just hire someone from the Philippines for like a fraction of your price?
Yeah.
The difference is because I with them as like I'm kind of like
Advisor.
co-founder
And
almost
yeah.
because I work with them in honing their product. I don't just wait for you to tell me design this and then I do that. Like I come back and I give suggestions.
Yeah.
Like for Homey, for example, there were a lot of stuff that wanted to put on the dashboard, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense, but because I've designed a lot of dashboards in my time, I know that this probably at work this would work better as its own page. So like
Yeah.
I work with them I'm proactive. For
Right.
me, I've also hired designers overseas, and a lot of them because of not sure if it's just the mentality or something,
Hmm.
but them it's like if you don't tell them like do this, they they won't just it
Yeah.
won't go out of their way to
Advise.
yeah, the initiative to kind of be
Right.
the expert designer. Like you just tell them what to do and then they're
Yeah.
done with their day. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of it kind of just validates that okay, I think that is a big differentiator, like
Yeah.
because they renewed me instead of going with someone cheaper. So yeah, pretty that's my breakthrough for the week. I'm pretty happy about that.
That's a huge breakthrough. That's almost like a difference between hiring an intern and hiring, as you said, a co-founder. An intern
Yeah,
will do what they're told, right? Versus
exactly.
a co-founder will be like, hey, this is great, but based on my experience, I think we should be doing this. So that's a huge point. Okay, that's awesome. Looks like you had an amazing week.
Yeah.
Congratulations to your wife for starting
Thank you.
a job.
Thank you. Yeah, I know it was
Yeah.
tough. This market, it's crazy, crazy, crazy.
I know, I know. I keep seeing so many of my friends struggling with it too, so I'm glad it worked out for you. And in the words of Sam Parr and Sean Puri, who's, and their MFM pod, that's the pod.
That's the pod. Yeah, no, I listened to it. All right. Thank
Woo!
you, Maitri. Have a good rest of
You
the day.
you too. Bye.